Alrighty, come for the incredibly helpful fantasy advice. Stay for the incredibly helpful fantasy advice. We do this every night, people. It's the Sweat, Jessie, Coffield, and Emerson Lotzia at your service.
We're going to help you get those golf rosters locked and loaded ahead of WGC-Mexico. Lessons learned from the first half of the NBA season, and we'll rip through some of the top NFL headlines of the day.
But first, it's a shallow fantasy hockey player pool tonight. With only 4 games on the docket, we've got quality, not quantity, when it comes to our panel. DK Live's Jeff Ulrich and Ben Zwyman.
It's another edition of Price Check, starting with Pat Kane. He's the most expensive skater. Jeff, do you think he's going to be worth paying $8K for against the Red Wings?
Yep. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to pay Patrick Kane at this point. It's just insane, the run he's on. But you also look at this from the perspective of the Detroit Red Wings aren't that good. I mean, it sets up, to me, kind of like the last matchup when they played the Ottawa Senators. I mean, they've been taking care of these softer teams, put up 6 goals against the Oilers, 8 against the Sens. Like I said, they put up 5 against the Red Wings a week ago or whatever. It's just insane. They're just playing pond hockey. I mean, they have no defense. Their goalies all suck, but their offense just scores like 5 goals a game, especially against these weaker teams. And you look at this slate, there's some interesting names, but none of the matchups are that great, and some of them are in slumps. So, yeah, I think you definitely pay it for Patrick Kane tonight.
Ben, Jeff is saying, oh, sure, for Patrick Kane. Do you agree?
Yeah. Again, like he said, you can't really fade Patrick Kane on this slate. I guess the only thing I'd be worried about a little bit in GPPs is his ownership will be really high. But like 20 points in his past 10 games, that's 6.8 fantasy points per game in that stretch. 2 points in the previous meeting against the Red Wings. 4-game slate, again, high on Kaner, but there are a lot of cheap wings that you can sort of go down to. Gaudreau, Rantanen are a few examples. So it's not really a tough slate to fit in a guy like Patrick Kane. Again, the ownership is the big thing here, but he's got the highest ceiling of any player on the slate, so you really can't fade him.
Yeah, I think the way to maybe fade Kane might be just take the secondary, tertiary scores from Chicago, but I'd still want some Blackhawks exposure. All
right, Benjamin, Boston's Patrice Bergeron is $7,100 in Vegas against the Golden Knights. That's $700 cheaper compared to his salary from 2 nights ago. How underpriced is this guy?
Extremely underpriced. I absolutely love Bergeron tonight. I don't even think it's because of his price being this low. I think the matchup is fantastic against the Golden Knights. The Golden Knights have been horrible lately. They've been hemorrhaging goals. But yeah, the Bruins have been hot, 29 goals in their past 7 games. They're 6-0-1 in that stretch. Again, Vegas has lost 4 of 5 games. They've allowed 18 goals in those 4 losses. They're just not playing great hockey. I think this is a spot where the Bruins on this road trip have been really playing well. They're in good form. You can easily stack Bergeron with Marchand. Marchand is only 6,700 tonight, which is pretty low by his standards. And they got Dan and Heine on that line at 5K. But you can really mix in guys on that power play too with DeBrusk. David Krejci are both cheap. Charlie McAvoy also a guy that you can stack in that Bruins first line, first power play. So yeah, I love Bergeron tonight. I think his price is way too low.
Jeff, pretty enticing price tag for you.
Look, even though Ben and I are like the A-team duo here, I'm still going to have to disagree with him. I just don't like it as much. I mean, Eastern Conference team going to the West Coast for like second game in 3 nights. I don't know. I mean, yeah, Boston's been playing good, but the Golden Knights are still pretty good defensively. Like, they don't allow a lot of goals. You don't see this with a big puck total either. I think it's sitting at 5.5 right now. I like the centers underneath them, like Scheifele's under 7K. I even think I like William Karlsson a little bit better in this spot. So I don't know. I mean, it's very cheap price for Patrice Bergeron. If you like the Bruins tonight, you got to take advantage of it. But it's actually not for me. I like the players underneath them more.
I mean, come on. I already said, though, Vegas has been allowing a lot of goals lately. I just think I had the same strain of thinking the other night when the Bruins went on the road against the Sharks. I thought the Sharks would be a little tight defensively. What happened in that game? 6-5. So I don't know. I think that's sort of where like people will think this game will be low scoring, but it's one of those spots where we're going to see a lot of goals because the Bruins are on the road. They're playing.
With everyone playing Chicago and probably the Jets Colorado game tonight, this is probably where you go, like in GPPs, right? So I definitely agree with you from that perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, some friendly debate. Alex DeBrincat is coming off that insane performance against the Sens 2 nights ago when he put up 16 DK points. Yep.
Who made him a slate-approved pick that night, guys? Do you remember?
I think it was you, Jeff.
Was it? No, I think it was Chris Wassel.
Jeff! It was
I
Jeff.
think it was me.
You nailed it.
Oh, okay.
So
I get you guys confused.
he got those 16 DK points off 3 goals and 2 assists. He's going to cost you 6-8 tonight against the Red Wings. What are the chances that he gives you more than 2 times value again, Jeff?
I mean, honestly, it's not bad. I mean, this guy is what he does. He's just a pure goal scorer, right? So it's, again, like I said, it's a similar spot to going up against the Sens. I mean, the Red Wings are a bottom 10 team in terms of penalty kill, and goals allowed. So again, the Blackhawks offense right now is just ridiculous, like I said. So I think it's actually pretty good. Again, you're looking at it from a DraftKings perspective. He's probably going to be just as popular, if not more popular, than Patrick Kane tonight. But from just a pure what he's going to return, I think he's got a great chance at hitting another big upside night.
Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough for him to put up 5 points tonight. I don't know if he hits that kind of value, but like Jeff said, he's in a great spot, and it's only 100 less than the other night when he put up 5 points. So they didn't really inflate his price that much. So he's still at a really good price point. And like Jeff said, Kane is probably going to be higher owned, so maybe DeBrincat is a little less. And it's very easy to stack DeBrincat, Kane, Jonathan Taves on that first power play. A lot of cheap defensemen that are playing well for the Blackhawks. The Red Wings haven't been playing well. Again, they're chalky. The Hawks are going to be really chalky. Cash games, this is where you're going to go. I think DeBrincat is a must-play in cash games almost. But yeah, I mean, in GPPs, you got to differentiate a little bit. But I guess I'd lean DeBrincat a little bit over Kane if I'm having to pay that price.
Ben, before we get to Mark Giordano, Stephanie, our producer, has sent us a message. Breaking news, Charlie Coyle has been traded from the Wild to the Bruins. What's the impact?
Get on that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, off the top of your head, what's the impact of this trade here?
I mean, Coyle's very versatile. He's played both wing and center for the Wild, so I think that stands out a lot because the Bruins are looking for a replacement for David Pastrnak. So they could slot Charlie Coyle up on that first line if they don't think Dan Heinen can, which makes the most sense. They also could move Jake DeBrusk up to that first line. I don't know if again, I don't think Coyle will play tonight. I wouldn't imagine he plays tonight. That's sort of tough to get him to Vegas in time. But I mean, long term, I would expect Coyle to be in that top 6. It boosts the value of him, obviously. DeBrusk probably gets a big bump if he gets moved up to that first line. I guess Dan Heinen, if they drop him down, would be the least benefactor in that scenario. But it's obviously a strong move. Charlie Coyle's a solid two-way player with a lot of versatility. Maybe you get him, maybe even centers a line. Maybe they use him as the third line center. But we'll see.
What do you think here, Jeff? The addition to Coyle to the Bruins, and does it possibly take Boston out of the running for a bigger name like Stone?
No, I mean, it doesn't take them out of the running. I mean, it makes it a little less likely that they'll do that. I think it's a good depth move for them. I mean, Charlie Coyle, like Ben mentioned, a good two-way player. And Boston's kind of issue is that all their scoring comes from one line a lot of nights. So it's good when the line's clicking, but when they get shut down, it's tough. I'd see him more as probably maybe either centering or just on the second or third line. But they could pop him up to the first line for fantasy. It's something you definitely want to keep an eye on because it could be mix and match with no Pastrnak.
All right, guys, Mark Giordano is the highest priced defenseman at $6,500 facing the Islanders, having a career year. Kind of feels like you should pay up for him in this situation, right, Ben?
It's sort of two theories tonight, right? So the Flames are against the Islanders. The Islanders are the best defensive team in the league. They allow the fewest goals. They allow the second fewest goals on the road. So it's not a great matchup. So we could see a lot of lineups off of the Flames tonight, which sort of helps Giordano's case, right? 6,500, he's the highest priced defenseman. He's having a great season. You might be able to get him at really low ownership, which stands out a lot for GPPs and tournaments tonight. So yeah, I actually like the Flames first line and Giordano, which all have power play 1 correlation tonight. So that's Gaudreau, Sean Monahan, and Elias Lindholm. You can stack those guys, and they'll probably be really low owned. So it's a pretty good tournament spot. But again, you're looking at them facing a very tough matchup. I would expect there to not be a lot of scoring in this game compared to other spots. Obviously, Hawks and Red Wings is we're going to find a lot of goals. So, but yeah, it might be kind of contrarian. So I kind of like Giordano a little bit.
Jeff, you kind of like this play?
Yeah, I think I'm in more agreement here with Ben. I mean, I don't think he's going to be as high owned as Patrick Kane or anything. I mean, you can fit him in quite easily on the slate, but I think most people will just go to Kane and then take some more value because there's actually quite a few good value targets on defense. And I mean, Duncan Keith, Tyler Myers, even Mike Green or Tyson Berry. I mean, they're all cheaper, a lot cheaper than Giordano, right? I think most people go that route. And Giordano's ownership won't be that big. So if you are going to play him, I agree 100%. You play him with Johnny Hockey or something like that, Johnny Gaudreau. Go for the Flames stack, who should be very under-owned tonight going up against the Islanders. Good team, very good defensive team. Doesn't look that great on the score sheet, but they'll be lower owned. So I kind of like the spot for Giordano on a short slate.
All right, nice work, you two. Both of you will be back shortly to talk hockey tiers with us. Jeffrey, we'll see you in 60 seconds for PGA Chaser Fade.
Yay!
Hey, it's Adam Kaufman with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Sixers chasing a championship, but the road got a bit tougher, or at least the search for home court to open the playoffs did. Philadelphia already 5th in the East, and now All-Star Joel Embiid is dealing with a sore left knee. He's going to miss at least a week before being reevaluated. Yes, this is the same guy who had 12 points and a game-high 12 rebounds in 23 minutes for Team Giannis in the All-Star game. The good news, no structural damage visible on the MRI, but he'll undergo physical therapy and load management treatment, whatever exactly that is. Long term, I don't think this was part of the process, but you can trust Embiid's always going to have to battle an injury. He'd already been limited in the past by foot and back injuries, though he'd stayed mostly healthy to this point this year. Furkan Korkmaz has a torn meniscus. He's also a real person, and he's out indefinitely, so Philly's rotation is definitely thin. So all eyes on Boban, Amir Johnson, and Jonah Bolden. Good luck.
Our dynamic golf duo from yesterday has returned. DK Live's Jeff Ulrich, who you just saw 1 minute ago, and Reed Fowler. And to help you guys out, we've added Awesemo.com's Jason Roslin to the mix as well.
So we're playing PGA Chase or Fade today. Gonna jump right in here, guys. Jeff, Tiger Woods has not cracked the top 10 this season. DK Sportsbook has him at plus 138 to do it at the WGC-Mexico Championship. So Chase or Fade, Tiger finishes in the top 10 this weekend.
What a scrub. No top 10s on the year yet. Unbelievable.
Yeah, fade him.
What a loser.
Fade him.
God. Look, I like Tiger this week. I mean, he's been heating up, obviously. I mean, like I said, his first start, he wasn't even in great form, still posted a top 20. And then last week, his strokes gained off the tee really caught the eye. I mean, obviously very positive in that. I think it had his best tournament in that in like since 2012 or something like that. I saw that on Twitter, by the way. That wasn't me that looked that up. Somebody else did. But as far as the top 10 goes, I don't necessarily love this from a sports betting perspective, but at 9,500, I like his chances to crack the top 10 this week. I think he's trending in the right direction. I think he's more rested than some of the players coming up. And he's obviously got the experience to tackle a course at altitude. So I'll chase this. Like I like Tiger in the top 10 this week.
What do you think, Reed?
Yeah, thank God we brought Jason on to actually increase the experience and then also the stats that we're going to do as opposed to just looking at Twitter, Jeff. But I agree with him. All those things said, I agree with Jeff. Look, Tiger is arguably in his best form, right? Since we've seen him since last year, kind of gets that full schedule right out of the gate. And Jeff mentioned it, strokes gained approach. That's one of the key metrics at this course. Distance is not going to worry you. But even though we don't think driver is important for Tiger, it is. It is important for him to see that in the fairway. Doesn't need the distance, although he's getting it now. But even if you think that he doesn't start off hot, his backdoor top 10 finish is potentially out there. I mean, birdie or better is gained, strokes gained approach in the last round. The guy's top 10 in both categories over the last 24 rounds. So even if you don't think he's a hot starter and gets out of the gate strong, he's got a really good chance at a backdoor cover in this top 10. So I'm with Jeff there. I'm going to chase it.
He hasn't played at high altitude since 1999, so that's like a long time ago.
For me.
Did you actually research that, Jessie?
Yes, I did.
She's on the internet right now on her tablet.
But it is written in the script. It is written in the script. I researched it before the show started.
I'm impressed. I'm serious.
Yeah, so I read he's been tinkering with his equipment ahead of this because 99, that's a long time ago. So what do we think? Yeah. Is your mind exploded?
You're amazing.
I know. Jason.
Yeah, I'm definitely buying this. Look, he lost a stroke on average per round last week with the flat stick, and we know that that's not Tiger Woods. We know that he doesn't do that in back-to-back tournaments. So let's say if he just goes to even on that statistic alone, not even looking at any of the other statistics, it puts him right in the top 5. So obviously that top 10 bet, I'm definitely going to chase. And I also like him on a chance to win. I mean, you got a course where obviously distance is not going to matter quite as much. And we know that Tiger's not as long as, say DJ or Brooks Koepka, and that's going to be mitigated here. So, we saw Phil Mickelson win here last year. I think that Tiger's got a really good chance to to maybe play his newfound buddy and match him.
Well, our next player does not have Big Cat's problem. Louis Oosthuizen has already finished in the top 10 4 times this season, Jeff. He's plus 6,600 to win the whole thing. But Reed, I want to ask you this. Please chase or fade that this man has a real shot to win this tournament.
I'm just excited to hear Jeff's reasoning why his boy Louis is going to win this. And look, I mean, top fives, like, it's a grain of salt, right? That's over in the European Tour where he saw his top fives and he won. Look, he won in his sort of home course or his hometown in Johannesburg there in South Africa. And that has a decent correlation. Look, we saw Sharma last year do really well, obviously win that tournament, and do really well at WGC-Mexico. Both are played at altitude. And on the European Tour, look, we've seen Louis do well. Par 4 scoring, 9th, ranked 9th. Birdies, ranked 8th. So he's there in terms of the statistics on that tour. But when you look at his approach, not that good, and coming in not necessarily injured, but not necessarily doing that well. So plus 6,600, nah, not for me.
What do you think here, Jason? He's connected for a red number just twice in his 8 rounds on this course.
Yeah, and one of those actually was a 64 first round lead last year. So really interesting that he came out firing and did nothing the latter 3 rounds. So I think certainly DraftKings price is very interesting. But as far as 66 to 1, I can't see him winning here. Maybe if he came in form last week, he sent this all for quite a ride. Shot 4 over the first day, battled all the way back to the cut line before fading off in his second round. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to fade the 66 to 1, but I think he is certainly in play though for your DraftKings lineups.
Jeff, go ahead. Explain to us and the people at home how Louis Oosthuizen is going to win this tournament.
I mean, look, I just always bet Louis, so it's not even like a thing. It's like the first thing I do Monday morning.
Oh, so
right?
he's like Tony Finau for Reed.
Price. I mean, look, the guy has recommitted himself this year. He got a really big win in South Africa. His big winless drought that he finally broke. And Reed actually mentioned this. He's used to playing at altitude. Like, this course should set up well for him. Kikuyu grass, same as they have in South Africa, blah, blah, blah. It's a more of a European-style course, and it should fit Louis. Jason mentioned the 64 he put up here last year. He wasn't in good form when he hit that 64. So I'm actually a little bit bullish here on Louis for this week. Definitely agree with the DraftKings call. And like I said, I do like this number personally, although I understand there's reasons why most people won't.
Guys, Justin Thomas, he's going to be the most expensive player on DraftKings at 11.8. So chase or fade, Thomas is a must-play this week. Jason.
Oh, man, it's a tough one for me. When I first started looking, I put him in there, and then it was getting a little bit more difficult and found myself going down to Rory McIlroy. It's $700 cheaper. So I'm not going to say I'm fading him, but it's pretty close to, he came up obviously just short here last year, just short again last week. We know he's got that winning mentality. He's going to want to get right back there. But we got some other guys that are just as good in form right now, Rory McIlroy being one of them.
What do we think here, Jeff?
Yeah, I fade this too, and I say it just with a caveat. It's a much scarier fade than, say, fading Dustin Johnson last week, because Thomas comes in your first strokes gained tee to green approach. Like, he's been playing really well, and obviously coming off the runner-up, we've seen players take that one step to the winner's circle before. So at the same time, he's 11-8 in an elite field tournament with so many guys like DeChambeau, Tiger's 9,500. It just feels like excessive to pay up for him. So, and you really need him to top 3 at that price. So I still think he's a fade, but he's, like I said, he's a scarier fade than usual.
Reed, scary fade, or are you going to play him?
It's not a must play. Look, you got the Rodney Dangerfield of golf, right? And Brooks Koepka, he doesn't get any respect. He's $2,000 cheaper. I know this is his first tournament on the PGA since the Tournament Champions, but these guys mentioned it. Like, there's such an elite field here. You really don't have to pay up top for these top studs. You can really start your lineups in like the 8K range, and you're getting Finau, you're getting really good golfers to have it that you could roster 6 of those guys, right, in the 8K range. So it's not a must play. But if you look at the correlations and you look at the trends from this tournament, because we only have a couple years of course history, the guys who do really well at Riviera the week before tend to do well here, right? Bubba, when he won Riv in 2018, top 10. Hadwin, top 10. In both categories. Phil, obviously, and now JT with that runner-up. We saw it last year. Now this year with that runner-up, he should be, in terms of what we're seeing as the trends, doing pretty well. But at that price, really expensive, he's not a must-play.
All right, you three enjoy yourselves until the last block of the show. Sorry about that. We're running tight on time right now. We'll have you back, though, for PGA pin placement. As for right now, we return with our NBA panel after a delightful dose of Levitan's fadeaway with Adam Kaufman.
The second half of the NBA season tips off 6 games, so let's identify some players you should avoid. To do that, I'm joined by someone who comes by negativity naturally, Adam Levitan. I'm Adam Kaufman. This is Levitan's fadeaway. Levy, Kyrie Irving missed Boston's last 2 games, 6 of 11 before the All-Star break with a knee injury, but looked totally comfortable in the All-Star game, which didn't generate any bad press at all. The guard 9,200 against the Bucks, always a threat for 60-plus DK points, so why are you fading him?
Yeah, I thought he did look good in the All-Star game. Not worried about the injury here at all. I think the biggest concern is the matchup. I mean, Milwaukee leads the entire league in defensive efficiency, top 8 in defensive efficiency against point guards, and specifically at the point guard position on DraftKings, we can afford to be really picky because there's so much opportunity cost. I mean, Harden is eligible there, Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, and then we have the multi-position guys such as D'Angelo Russell, Devin Booker, CJ McCollum, who qualify at point guard also. So I'm always willing to be really, really picky at point guard, and Kyrie's matchup is a little bit scary.
Hassan Whiteside, 6,700, and the big man efficient lately, but minutes are down, so is his production. Why are you leaving him alone?
Yeah, minutes are always so scary. I mean, 22 minutes when these two teams met in November, and they played a 5-game series last year in the playoffs. Hassan Whiteside only averaged 15 minutes per game in that entire series. So I think the Heat have major concerns and major foul concerns about using Whiteside.
Thanks, Levy.
All right, good luck.
Alrighty, for all you hoop heads out there, the NBA returns in 24 hours, and we've got a couple dudes here to talk about it. DK Live's Pierce Dietrich and RotoWire's Alex Barutha.
We're trying something different here,
Throwing
a new thing at you, a little segment we're calling Lesson Learned. So what are some DFS lessons you learned from the first half of the season? Maybe you're never going to play a certain guy again, or maybe you'll always play somebody at home. Maybe there's a player you feel is always underpriced. You know, you get it.
Pierce, what's the first lesson learned for you?
Well, the first lesson is never trust Anthony Davis. I learned this lesson a long time ago, but I've got to do this as kind of a public service announcement because some people still have not learned this lesson. Before, you couldn't play him because of injuries, but now you still have the injuries. Now he just doesn't want to play. And if you remember, right before All-Star break, DraftKings dropped his price to $9,000, and some really smart people still thought they could play Anthony Davis. What did he do? Played 15 minutes and suffered a phantom injury. Now, if it was a real injury, then guess what? This guy can get injured doing anything, and you can't roster him. If it's a fake injury, he's not playing. The Pelicans don't want him in. He doesn't want to be in. You've got to take him out of your player pool. You'll save yourself a lot of money in the long run.
Yeah, now you have the NBA threatening to sue the Pelicans if they sit a healthy Anthony Davis. It's a mess right now. Alex, your first lesson learned.
Yeah, maybe with the exception of Anthony Davis here, don't be afraid to play star players in tough matchups. I think people, when looking for guys to play in DFS, kind of get obsessed with defense first position, stuff like that. But chances are these guys are stars because they thrive under pressure. I mean, a guy like Giannis averages basically 28 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, 3.5 steals and blocks against the other 4 best teams in the league. If you think those are Boston, Golden State, Philly, and Toronto. So and doing that can give you an edge on the competition because instead of, looking for some low-owned guy who's minimum price that might get you 15 fantasy points, you're going to end up having a lower-owned guy that's a superstar that could get you 50, 60 DraftKings points, something like that.
All right, Alex, lesson number 2.
Yeah, I guess this goes along with the Anthony Davis thing a bit. Don't try too hard to make sense of teams that can't even figure themselves out. I mean, you just have to accept some of these teams are unpredictable. You have the Hawks, the Knicks, the Grizzlies might fall into this category. Even the Lakers feel tough to gauge. So, recognize that, these teams are unpredictable. Luke Walton might change his rotation at any minute. So it's smart to avoid some of those teams for cash games. GPP flyers, sure, why not? But don't try to, spend a bunch of time trying to make sense out of teams that don't even know what they're doing themselves.
Pierce, lesson number 2.
Going along with what Alex said, just don't make your life any harder than it needs to be. If something is obvious, just go with it. And if Chris Paul is out, you jam in James Harden regardless of what the price is. 45% usage rate, 39 minutes with Chris Paul out. You don't even really need to even go over the stats when you look at that usage rate in the minutes, but I will because we're here and we've got the time to do it. 6 threes a game, 44 real points a game. That's more than a real point per minute. 7 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, 60 fantasy points per game. He went over 70 fantasy points 10 times. He hit 97 fantasy points. And people were worried, oh, is his salary too high? I don't know. Just jam him in.
Some people would say James Harden is the MVP right now, but according to your third lesson, that's not the case, is it, Pierce?
No, James Harden is not the MVP. He might be a regular season hero, and he'll get a lot of offensive points, and he'll probably get the vote. But if you look at who really is the most valuable player, it's Paul George. You look at defensive real plus minus, and you take out the centers, he's number 1. You look at offensive real plus minus, he's number 4. Total real plus minus, he's the best player in basketball. That's kind of the point of basketball. Score more points than your opponents, and then when you're on defense, keep them from scoring. Nobody is better at that than Paul George. James Harden will probably win it because people love offensive stats, and it's ridiculous that the MVP is an offensive category. But if you want the MVP, the most valuable guy that could take you deep in the playoffs right now, it's Paul George.
Alex, where are you taking us on this?
Yeah, third lesson, I think, since daily fantasy basketball is about individual players, I think people kind of lose sight of the overall teams. So it's important not to overlook pace, home court advantage, days of rest, stuff like that. It's easy to forget, but, a good example might be Mike Conley from the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies play at the slowest pace in the league, but when the team scores more than 100 points at home, Conley averages 41 DraftKings points. When the team scores fewer than 100 points, home or away, Conley averages 36 DraftKings points. So that's a difference of 5 DraftKings points. If you do that, if you look at that for multiple players in your lineup, that's a really good way to get an advantage, and those numbers really start to build up.
Short and sweet tonight, Alex. Thanks for your help. Pierce, you are back for NFL Spin Move after a little treat. No,
let's just go to
Fantasy
a break,
Flash.
right? Yeah.
Hey, it's Brendan Glasheen, and with this DraftKings Fantasy Flash, Chris Paul said he forgot about his spit duel with Rajon Rondo. Remember that? That was back in October. It caused a big old fight at Staples Center. It was the headline, not LeBron's Lakers home debut, or Carmelo Anthony's second game with the Rockets, not even Houston winning the basketball game. Due to the brawl, there were a few suspensions. Brandon Ingram, 4 games, Rondo, 3 games, Paul, 2 games. So the 2 point guards face each other on the court Thursday for the first time since the incident. Paul added, once the fine goes out of your check, you move on. Both players were also occupied in the meantime by injury recovery. Paul, hamstring, 18 games missed. He's played in 8 of the Rockets' last 9 games. He's got at least 32 DK points in this stretch. Rondo, finger, 31 games missed. Rondo's played in 9 straight games, logging at least 10 assists in 5 of them. Lakers are still on the outside looking in at the playoffs, while the Rockets are still hoping to climb up the West for a home court seed. Neither team can afford more injuries, better yet suspensions. The Paul Rondo rematch tips at 10:30 Eastern Thursday night at Staples Center.
Not that we're counting, but there are only 197 days until the NFL season kicks off on Thursday night.
How many
September
minutes
5th.
and seconds? Just kidding. We don't have that.
Okay, gosh, I'm not great at math.
Yeah, definitely not. So clearly we're jonesing for some fantasy football.
A little
Oh,
bit.
God. Which is why we have this DK Live duo here with us, Steve Buchanan and Pierce Dietrich.
It's NFL Spin Move. You know the drill, and if you don't, we put a fantasy spin on some of today's NFL headlines. So easy that even Reed Fowler has done this in the past.
Wow. C.J. Anderson is what's next, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll read that.
Move along.
Steve, C.J. Anderson tells FS1 Todd Gurley's knee was more hurt than the team thought. 21 touchdowns, more than 1,800 yards from scrimmage in the regular season, becoming an afterthought in the NFC title game and Super Bowl. How cautious should we be drafting Gurley in season long, or even rostering him at DFS next season?
I mean, when did CJ Anderson become like the team spokesman? Like, yeah, let's go on FS1 and like, hey, this is what we need you to tell everybody. Update them on Todd Gurley's knee. Like, what are we doing?
It does feel
here?
a little bizarre.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. And honestly, it's aggravating. It's like, the NBA gets all this flack for, bad injury reporting. Look at this crap that we got going on in the NFL. But honestly, like the first round of picks it's kind of a mess right now. Le'Veon Bell doesn't have a team. Antonio Brown doesn't have a team. Now we throw Gurley and his injury in the mix. I mean, look, there's a whole offseason we have to get through. We're going to see what's going to happen with Gurley here. But, I mean, you know, if you're going to believe that this is all due to injury, then yes, he should be back next year and back in his normal role. But I want to kind of see what's going to what plays out here. I mean, this was the guy that was given one of the biggest contracts for a running back, and look, he was almost non-existent at the end of the season. So you don't feel good about it right now. I kind of want to see how this is going to play out, like I said, but this is just so odd, so bizarre. You know, if you're in the first round, just get Hopkins, just get Devontae Adams, make it nice and easy.
Yeah, highest paid running back in the NFL right now. But Pierce, I mean, the team says he's 100% healthy, but only gives him 10 touches in the biggest game of the season. I mean, that's where the speculation comes from. Is it just a wait and see for you as well?
Well, I don't think C.J. Anderson is spreading fake news. I don't see why he would make up a lie at this point. He seems like an honest guy to me, but you know, running backs, they got leg injuries. That's pretty much the beginning of the end. I wouldn't go near this. I'm sure these zero RB guys are loving every second of this, and adds more, you know, to their belief that you shouldn't draft running backs. They have more likelihood of getting injured. You have to roster more wide receivers, and you can pick up guys like Phillip Lindsay, Marlon Mack, James Conner. There's plenty of good running backs you can pick up in the regular season than to take a risk on, you know, a running back who may or may not have an injury.
All right, well, according to the Miami Herald, Danny Amendola is iffy to return to the Dolphins in 2019. Dola caught just one touchdown this season, but did lead the team in catches and receiving yards. So do you think the 33-year-old could be more productive in a different uniform, or have we seen the best of him, Pierce?
Well, you're going to let me go first. I know who Steve's going to say, and I'm going to say the same team. Why doesn't he just go back to the Patriots? Yeah. He went and got his money that the Patriots wouldn't give him. He's got that paycheck. Now he can go back to the Patriots. All's well. Or he can go out to the 49ers. We've got every other free agent signing with the 49ers, and it's an upgrade at slot over Trent Taylor, and he'll reunite with Jimmy Garoppolo.
I mean, Steve, you're going to say Pats? I know Olivia Culpo would like him back in New England.
Ooh. I mean, Pierce thinks that he's more of a friend than he actually is, because I had nowhere on my sheet that I wanted him to go back to the Patriots. I mean, look, the Dolphins had the third lowest pass attempts in the league, and thus they had the third lowest passing yards in the league. So, yeah, you have to think that Amendola is not going to have a stellar season. If anything, I think he's actually a pretty good target for the Packers. Randall Cobb is not projected to come back with the team, and that was, you know, their slot receiver when he was healthy. And that's where Amendola really operates on. So I feel like it's a low risk, you know, I don't want to say high reward, but he's going to come on the cheap, you know. It's a veteran guy that Rodgers can kind of rely upon in an area they need. I mean, look, they're going to need receivers. You know, they really didn't have anybody other than Devontae Adams. Not that Amendola is going to be some savior or anything, but he's reliable. He stays healthy. He's a target in the red zone. He can get down the field. I think he'd be a perfect fit for the Packers. But you know, Pierce wants to be my buddy and thinks he knows everything.
All right, Steve. Well, how about maybe a soon-to-be former Dolphins wide receiver, another one. The Miami Herald is also calling Devontae Parker all but gone for next season. The former first-round pick, never had a 1,000-yard season. Which team would give him the best chance to do that in 2019? Maybe New England?
No, I'm not going New England on this one either. I mean, you know what benefits Parker is that this is such a weak wide receiver class. When Golden Tate and Robbie Anderson are your headliners, you know, pretty good chance you're going to get a lot of interest from out there. Not that there's anything wrong with those guys, but it just kind of goes to show how weak this class is here. I think the Colts make so much sense here. I mean, he could tend to take the role that Dontrell Inman occupied. It doesn't look like he's going to be back. Parker is 4 years younger. It gives the Colts a legit number 2 receiver. I mean, really, what was the last time the Colts had a number 2 receiver? It's always been T.Y. Hilton and then a bunch of cast of characters there. I think Parker would benefit so well from a much better quarterback in Andrew Luck. He's obviously so much better. You saw how well he played last year. Then if you can have this choice of T.Y. Hilton and Devontae Parker, that's a legitimate offense that you have to worry about there. So I think the Colts would just be a natural fit for him.
Pierce, 6'3" frame, 26-year-olds. I mean, how much interest do you think he draws in the open market?
Well, see, yeah, is he young? Yes. Does he have the frame? Yes. Does he have the talent? Yes. But the rumor about him is he doesn't put in the work and has never put in the professional work once he's got into the league, and that's why he's an absolute bust. The answer to this question really is nobody should take this guy. 49ers, Raiders, you can name a bunch of the Broncos need a receiver. Pittsburgh's going to need a receiver when Antonio Brown goes. But this guy is a bust. Do not take him.
All right. Well, Emmanuel Sanders tweeted at a Denver radio station that he definitely does not think that the Broncos should approach him about restructuring his contract to stay with the team. Don't even think about it. But should he reconsider this, considering Joe Flacco will be their quarterback? What do you think, Pierce?
Oh, yeah.
Joe Flacco is going to be their quarterback. He should probably get paid more, not take a pay cut. No one should take a pay cut. This is ridiculous. They signed the deal. They owe him the money. I don't even think a fry cook at McDonald's should take a pay cut. And they always say, oh, well, it's for the team. It's for the greater good. Shut up. Get out of my face. You owe me the money. Pay me the money. This is America. It's ridiculous that he has to be the one who takes the pay cut to help out. It's just absurd.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady sets a bad example because when you have Giselle as your wife, she's making more than you. It's really not fair. Steve, what do you think?
I just love when I heard this. I can be seeing a man will be like, girl, you best not be texting me about that pay cut.
Hell no.
I mean, look, it doesn't matter that Flacco's going to be their quarterback. I don't know how many times we're going to have to say this. He's going to be their quarterback till about week 4. Then he's going to be on the bench because he was injured, because there's a torn ACL, whatever, because that offensive line can't stop anything. I think Sanders holds all the leverage here. Look, the Broncos are going to be going through a rebuild here. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. And then without Emmanuel Sanders, what are they going to be down to? Sutton and Patrick? I mean, man, I know you're going through a rebuild, but you got to throw something out on the field there, right? So, I mean, I don't know. It's nice and all, but, I mean, I can't think they can realistically go with him, ask him to restructure the contract, and not have him demand a trade out of town right away. So, you know, good luck with that, I guess.
New Ravens OC Greg Roman says he wants to build an offense around Lamar Jackson. Probably a good idea. One that accommodates him and allows him to do what he does best if they're able to do that in free agency in the draft. Can Jackson be a top 5 fantasy quarterback, Steve?
No. I look. I mean, look. Let's go through who the top 5 quarterbacks are, and from a fantasy perspective: Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, Andrew Luck, Drew Brees. Lamar Jackson does not belong in that same category. I mean, look, he's completely dependent on the rush. He only passed for over 200 yards once this season, and it was 204 yards. He only threw for more than 1 touchdown in a game once this season. Granted, it wasn't a full season, but this is a guy who even in college was not an accurate passer. He always relied on the rush. It's a nice quarterback to have, but he's a poor man's Russell Wilson. He's not the guy that's going to rush for 90-so yards and then throw for 300. That's just not how his game is. He's a nice quarterback to have. It's good to have there, but it's just not a guy that's going to be a top 5 quarterback, I don't believe. Not in the same realm as all those guys I just mentioned.
Pierce Roman says he doesn't like to leave popcorn on the ground as a play caller, so it sounds like he's starting to draw up some X's and O's, some fun stuff for Lamar Jackson.
This is laughable. You're going to build a playbook around a guy who throws for 75 yards a game. Have fun with that. What they probably will do is build an offense around their defense, and they will just play conservative and try not to turn the ball over. That might work. I mean, let's humor it. Let's say they do build an offense around Lamar Jackson, and then he gets injured in the second week because he's running the ball too much. You better have Colin Kaepernick on speed dial if that's your plan, because if you're going to restructure your entire offense around a mobile quarterback, you're going to need 2 or 3 of them as backups. This is stupid.
All right, you two have the best night ever. The sweat rolls on with NHL Tears of Joy next.
Hey, it's Adam Kaufman with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Le'Veon Bell wants out of Pittsburgh, just like his soon-to-be former teammate Antonio Brown. In fact, Bell even retweeted our tweet here at DK Monday, wishing the running back a happy birthday and asking him which present he'd like to open first, from the Jets, Texans, Colts, or Ravens. Now, maybe one of those teams is in his future. We'll find out eventually. Bell seems to be having a good time. He tweeted Tuesday afternoon, "This entire process is so enjoyable." In case that was sarcasm amidst rumors the Steelers would use the transition tag on him, he's probably smiling big now for real, because Pitt's GM Kevin Colbert said today, "Nope, you're a free man, Lev. You'll be an unrestricted free agent at the start of the new league year, March 13th. Bell's been sour a little bit over 2 years of franchise tags, even to the point of sitting out all of last year. So this is great news for the back. He's been eager for a change of scenery and, more significant, wants to get paid. He publicly has wanted at least $15 million a year. Bell's agent can start talking to teams March 11th, and soon we'll see him on the field for the first time since 2017, when he approached 2,000 total yards and matched a career high with 11 touchdowns in 15 games.
We are back again with our hockey panel, consisting once again of Jeff Ulrich and Ben Zwyman. And it's time to take a look. Oh, the A-team. Yeah, of course.
I would like, do you mean A-team as in best hockey panel, or are you talking best like panel A-team out of all of our sports, Jeff?
Just out of anything, I think.
Wow.
Like the A-team.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know?
Okay, hey, just making sure. I'm
Like-
sure that'll make Reed feel great.
Well, the A-team is ready to look at tonight's tiers contest, I think.
All right, let's take a gander at Tier 1. Patrick Kane, Nathan McKinnon, Patrice Bergeron, Elias Lindholm. Jeff, does Lindholm even belong in this tier?
Not really. I mean, no.
Okay, sounds
Short
good.
answer. I don't think he does. Maybe Ben's got more, but I mean, it's not even really a good matchup with the New York Islanders. And then on top of everything, he's like the third best player on his line. So I don't know. No.
I guess.
I may be able to elaborate a little bit.
Wow.
So apparently tonight, Matt Tkachuk is up with Gaudreau and Monahan. I'm not really sure where Elias Lindholm's slotting in. I imagine on the second line with Mikhail Backlund. So again, not a great matchup. Lindholm isn't with Gaudreau and Monahan. He's going to be on the power play. The extreme thinking here is Lindholm will be so low owned in this tier if by some act of God he outscores Patrice Bergeron and Patrick Kane and Nathan McKinnon, then you're looking pretty good. So that's literally the only upside here. That's all I got.
Who are you going to pick in this tier?
Ooh, I like Patrice Bergeron a lot. I think he'll be lower owned than Patrick Kane. I think again the matchup against Vegas, like we said in the last segment, I really like the Bruins tonight. And again, you can sort of get against the grain. I think a lot of people will be on Patrick Kane. I think Bergeron has that upside to reach the level that Kane can. Maybe he doesn't have the shot volume, so Kane's a little bit safer. But again, I like Patrice Bergeron.
Jeff, who would you pick in Tier 1, though?
Yeah, I mean, similar thinking. I mean, look, I understand if you just take Patrick Kane and you look to differentiate at other tiers, that probably makes sense. But I kind of like Nathan McKinnon for the same reason. The Winnipeg Avalanche game, again, has a pretty big puck total at 6.5. It's pretty much close to the same as Chicago-Detroit, which is good. I mean, I think these two teams can obviously put up like a 7-4 game or something. I mean, McKinnon's definitely capable of going off. I mean, I think in this tier, I think you need to think about fading Kane because he's going to be so popular. So I kind of like McKinnon for that reason.
All right, guys. Tier 2 has Gabriel Landeskog, Dylan Larkin, Mark Schifley, Jonathan Toews. So, Ben, who would you fade from this group?
So it's a tough call. I originally thought Scheifele. I'm leaning Landeskog only because the Avs mixed up their lines a lot. I think Landeskog is on the third line. They split up McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog. I don't know if that's going to last the whole game, so that actually plays a factor in making your lineups, right? I could see them putting that line back together sometime in the game, and plus they're all skating on the power play. Winnipeg, pretty good on the penalty kill, but they don't have Dustin Byfuglien, which plays a factor, and the Avalanche have been they played well against the Jets the last time out. So yeah, I guess if I have to fade someone, it's Landeskog, but I like all four of these guys in this tier, which plays a factor also because if all of them score pretty relatively safe numbers, you don't have to worry about it too much. So tier 2 is maybe not a tier that I'm worrying too much about. Larkin and Toews are your favorites, though, I would say.
What do we think, Jeffrey?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Ben. Like, all these players have some appeal for sure. I mean, there's no one I'd fade outright completely 100% or just don't dislike. I think Landeskog would be the fade for me too, though. I mean, I know I liked McKinnon in the last one, but he's more of a driver. He's more of a player who kind of doesn't matter who he plays with. He can still have those huge upside nights. I think Landeskog has to play with McKinnon in some respects to have that big night to go off. And we're not sure if it's even going to happen. So obviously in the power play, it probably will still. So it's not like a complete lost cause, but out of all these players, he's the one I'd fade to. I mean, like I said, though, all four of them are in pretty good spots.
Hey, Jeff, 5 players in Tier 3. Who do you like the most?
Yeah, Tier 3, I mean, it's tempting to just go with the Brincat, but again, I mean, Patrick Kane, it's going to be the same effect. I think most people just say, well, I got to take the Chicago guy here. I like going to Blake Wheeler. I like the Chicago-Winnipeg game, as most people probably have guessed by now. I like Mark Scheifele. And I think Blake Wheeler has just as much upside. I mean, obviously doesn't score as much, but in this game against the Avalanche, I mean, the Jets have gone off a couple times against us. They scored 7 goals the last time they played. I like the Jets' offense in the spot. It's been a little quieter of late. The big line for them hasn't been as productive of late, but I still think Wheeler is more than capable in this spot.
Where are you going, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, in tiers, you really have to correlate your plays. You want to stack a lot of lines. With that said, Brad Marchand's the guy I'm going with because I like Patrice Bergeron a lot in tier 1. But yeah, I mean, I like Wheeler, I like DeBrincat. Those are two of the other obvious plays. Again, if we're looking at like GPP plays, Mark Giordano in that tier is pretty safe. He'll have a good floor, block shots, shots on goal. So maybe if you're trying to differentiate, like we've been talking about so far this segment, yeah, Mark Giordano is not a bad idea. But yeah, if you're stacking the Bruins, if you're stacking the Hawks, you really have to go with Marchand and DeBrincat. There's no reason to really differentiate there.
All right, well, let's jump down to the working man's tier, tier 8. So who's the best option here, Ben?
I like Josh Bailey a lot on the Islanders. He's been playing pretty well lately. The Flames haven't been playing well defensively. They've been pretty leaky. Mike Smith is in goal tonight. He has a sub 900 save percentage at home. Not a very good, a good matchup for the Islanders. Not a very good goaltender there. But yeah, you can pair Josh Bailey with Matt Barzal. Matt Barzal's in tier 4. They'll be skating on the same line. I think like we've been talking about, a lot of people will be on the Hawks. A lot of people will be on the Red Wings. A lot of people will be on the Winnipeg, Colorado game. So yeah, if you're trying to look to differentiate a little bit, like we've been stressing tonight, that seems like the theme. But yeah, Barzal, Bailey, pretty easy 4-8 stack there.
Jeffrey.
I like William Karlsson. I mean, I know Ben likes the Bruins in this matchup, but I mean, look, Vegas is at home and they're favorites in this game, so they're gonna score some goals according to Vegas, right? I mean, why not get William Karlsson in the first line center in the 8th tier? I mean, I like it. He's a little bit boomer bust, but when he goes off, I mean, it's a 3-point night, so more than capable of winning this tier. You could also look at the other Vegas players. Obviously, there's a lot of them in this tier. Brandon Peary, obviously, when he either scores like 3 goals or nothing. But I like Karlsson personally. I'd probably fade the D-man in this tier, although Tyler Myers has been kind of going off of late. But I like Karlsson.
Who's your least favorite person in this tier, Jeff?
Yeah, probably McAvoy. I mean, I know he's had some big games of late, but he splits time on the point, like with Krug there, and I don't know. It just seems kind of a little bit too random for me to take for a defenseman, and especially in this tier. Like I said, when you're getting a first-line player on Vegas, I just think I'd rather go that way.
Ben,
hey, random's good, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at.
Who you fading hard in tier 8, bro?
Jeff mentioned, but Tyler Myers I don't like a lot. He doesn't have much upside. He did score a couple of goals the other game, but that was against the Senators, so a really easy matchup. So yeah, I mean, I'm not really looking at Tyler Myers too much. He's got a too low a floor, not a high enough ceiling. I like McAvoy. I don't know why Jeff doesn't like McAvoy. McAvoy's been playing great lately. The matchup's good. Dominic Cahoon is also a decent option down there if you're looking to stack him with Strome and DeBrincat in the tiers contest. But yeah, Tyler Myers is my least appealing guy there.
All right, finally, Slate Approved pick time. Who is your lock for tonight's slate, Ben?
Bergeron. I'm not really going to get cute here. I like Patrice Bergeron. I like that line. I think it's a Bergeron Marchand night. I think you're going to see, multi-point outing from both of them, hopefully, obviously. But yeah, 7,100, too good a price for Bergeron, so I'm rolling there.
Jeffrey.
Vegas with the 5th best penalty kill in the league. That's why I don't like McAvoy, by the way. But I'll let Ben go with the expensive center, and I'll take Mark Scheifele, who's actually quite a bit cheaper than Bergeron. I mentioned the Jets a million times. I like Wheeler too, and I think he can stack the two tonight. But Scheifele, better goal scorer, a little bit more upside, and he's cheaper. So Mark Scheifele.
All right, our A team, according to Jeff, excellent work, you two. Ben, you are free to go. Jeff, hold tight. We're going to see what Reed thinks about you calling you two the A team. We're also going to have some PGA pin placement.
Ooh.
Hey, it's Adam Kaufman with this DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Manny Machado, either a big fan of the zoo, nice weather, California, the movie Anchorman, the fleet, baseball irrelevance, money, or all the above. But either way, he's off the market, has a new home. The infielder reportedly reached an American sports free agent record 10-year, $300 million pact with the Padres. That means Bryce Harper, the top remaining slugger, still available. According to reports, San Diego's actually interested in signing the outfielder as well. As for Harper's other suitors, SNY's Andy Martino reports the Giants still have a shot. The Phillies have a tough road to get it done. Martino added Philadelphia could step up to $326 million to increase its chances, but it's not clear the Phils will go that high. Matt Gelb covers the Phillies for The Athletic. He had a revealing quote from GM Matt Klentak on the price tag for Machado. If the reports are true, he said, this contract will exceed our valuation. Sometimes you just have to walk away. Not what Harper or his agent Scott Boras probably wanted to hear. At least if Harper joins Machado out west, though, that'd make the team interesting, which is more than we've been able to say about the Pods in a decade.
Final block of the show, and we plan to make it a good one, but that's not up to us. It's up to these three and whether or not they deliver the goods. Reed, Jeff, and Jason. Real quick, Reed, you just heard Jeff's hot takes, calling himself and Ben Zwyman the A team out of every panel we've ever had on the show. You two are paired up quite a bit. What do you think of his comments?
Well, I'm not surprised that Jeff is insensitive to our relationship, but this is really an indictment on Jason. Like, Jason's a newcomer. We want to welcome our guests here, and look, Jeff just doesn't really care about other people. So that's all I got to say about that.
Wow.
Maybe this is the A+ team.
Oh,
he totally redeems himself. Let's go.
I like that. I
Wow.
like that.
Jason, if you could not tell, Jeff is Canadian.
If you couldn't tell, Jeff is sneaky. So, golf panel, let's get to PGA pin placement.
Okay.
Why don't we? So, where will the following players finish at WGC-Mexico, starting with Webb Simpson? Reed, you're up.
Yeah, I love Webb Simpson this week. I think top 5 is not out of the question. When you look at his game, especially in WGC events, he hasn't had a ton over the last few years. He's only appeared in 2, and that was last year, I think the Bridgestone and Mexico. And it didn't really perform that well. But if you look at this course, right, it sets up a lot like a Pete Dye-esque course, where not necessarily having to be strong off the tee, but you have to put it in the right places. Obviously, you have to hit it smaller greens or harder than average greens, and that's really Webb's game. He's performed obviously at the Players and some of these harder tournaments like the majors. I really like Webb Simpson this week. Top 5 again, especially in DraftKings. He's going to come with about 25% ownership, but I don't think top 5 is out of the question for Webb.
Oh, wow, top 5. Jeff, you think that could happen?
Probably not. I don't mind Webb. I think top 15, top like a T17 I'll throw out for Webb Simpson. I like the way he's playing. He is playing really well. I mean, he's figured out the putter. His approach game has been on track since like the fall. Nothing to dislike there. I just feel like with the altitude and stuff, I like Webb better in Florida. I mean, he won the big, obviously the Players there last year. I think the Honda Classic sets up better, and I'm not sure if he's quite at the top of his game. And again, we're talking about an elite WGC field. Webb Simpson never really has done that much in the WGCs. I don't know why we're thinking he's going to be top 5 now. So I like him for a solid week, but nothing spectacular.
Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this course is probably one of the better suited ones for him for the WGCs. That being said, I think top 15 is probably where his game is at. His putting has regressed from last year just a little bit more than I wanted to see. Obviously, we knew he was going to regress a little bit. He had an amazing year last year. So I still see him as a very solid play. His approach game, as both of these guys mentioned before me, he's gaining about 1.5 strokes per round this year on his approaches, which will certainly aid him, give him plenty of birdie looks. And listen, we just need DraftKings points sometimes, and Webb should be able to give you plenty this week.
Hey, Jason, Henrik Stenson feels pretty ice cold right now. Where does he? Where does he finish? Any chance he doesn't finish last?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we've got 2 guys, truthfully, that I hadn't heard of, and I had to go look into a little bit, McLeod and Miller, or Millar, I should say. So I think Stenson probably ends up in the 35 to 40 range. If you guys don't remember last year, he was the talk of the tournament the first round. He birdied the first 2 holes and then withdrew due to stomach cramps. I think we can all kind of figure out what that is being in Mexico. So I don't know. Maybe a top 30 is what I'm looking at for Stenson.
Jeff, he's missed his first 3 cuts of 2019. The good news is that drought will end this week.
Will it? Oh, because what if he withdraws again?
That's true.
Look,
yeah,
I get why people want to play Henrik Stenson. He's awesome. He's 7,200. He's a major winner. He's hilarious. But yeah, I'll throw like T35, and that might even be like a little high. I mean, he's just not playing well, and when he gets in these funks, like they can last a while. I mean, you'll know when he's out because he'll come out firing, and it could happen this week. It could, but I think you're kind of just guessing and throwing darts if you're going to go heavy on him. And again, if he's going to be a little bit popular, why do you want to play him in this form? So I'm going to say T35, and like I said, might be even being generous.
Reed, should only the riskiest contrarians consider this dude?
Yeah, and because of that, I know he's in your lineup.
No,
'cause you're trying to
no.
Yeah,
Wow.
oh yeah. I read you like a book, Emerson. Yeah, I mean,
All
Henrik's
pictures.
got that Louis Oosthuizen, and I might just withdraw after the first 3 holes type dynamic, and that kind of scares you, right? Especially now, what kind of got you on Henrik last year is kind of is potentially the narrative that people want to give themselves at his price tag of 7,200, which is he can just use his 3-wood on every single hole, including the par 5s that are over 600 yards because of the altitude. Having said that, like you guys mentioned, the missed cuts in the last 3 starts on the European Tour, so not even these full-fledged PGA tournaments, and he's just not coming into form at all. So top 25, maybe if you look at where he's situated at his price tag, it's nice. I got him about 15 to 16% ownership in GPPs, but at the same time, I mean, 3 missed cuts potentially could not get all 4 rounds. Like, this is a no-cut event, right? I mean, if this guy doesn't get you 4 rounds like everyone else does, you're in a complete mess. So top 20, top 25 is where I think he would come in.
All right, Paul Casey. Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Paul Casey first in strokes gained tee to green last week, and he went on social media and said he, felt really tired and didn't play that well, but he was. I mean, statistically, he actually played really well. He's played pretty well in the first 2 years of this course, too. Has a couple low rounds, so I like him. The problem with Paul Casey is I don't want to predict him too high because he's inevitably going to have like a round where he 3-putts 4 times and drops back. So I'll say T5 just because I do think he's playing well enough to contend here, but probably won't get it done.
T5, Reed, is that ambitious?
No, not at all. I think Jeff hit the nail on the head here. I mean, you look at what you need at this course. We've been talking about it throughout each segment is strokes gain approach. And Paul Casey, what's hindered him in the past is that he's been a slow starter historically, and he just hasn't won. And we've seen him get close, obviously, at Pebble. And if you look at some of the corollaries with the short course, at par 71, especially with the course conditions like the Poana greens, Paul Casey did well. The approach is there, but the putting is not. And that could switch, right? That could switch in terms of how variant putting is. It could switch from day to day, and especially week to week. So I do like him here. I like him a lot, especially if you want to potentially pivot in that 8K price range. Paul Casey is a good one.
Jason, these guys are pretty high on Paul Casey. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'm probably not quite as high on them. Here's what I will say. Paul Casey's peaked last year during this time. He won the Valspar, which was in mid-March. So if we're getting an early peak from Paul Casey, which obviously we almost got it at Pebble, so he's pretty close, maybe I can see him getting in the top 5. But I think that he's probably better suited for something like a Valspar, defending champion in Tampa. I think I got him at T10, T15. He's been 12th and 16th the last 2 years here. I honestly think he ends up right around there again.
Reed, Bubba Watson a T9 here last year. Thinking better or worse than that?
Worse. I got top 25 at best for Bubba. Again, we look at this course, and he doesn't necessarily set up the best for Bubba in terms of what we think, but, right, he does well on Pete Dye-like courses, and that's what this kind of is, a European-style course, which, again, we don't think Bubba likes to travel overseas, but he's done well. In terms of where he's coming into this week, where the putting, again, has been better of late, but around the greens, especially if he gets a little wayward with his approaches, and maybe the number that he has that his caddy gives him for his iron shots isn't exactly right, and he misses these greens, his around the green game right now is atrocious. And so top 25 for me is where I think Bubba is probably going to land.
All right, Jason, T15 at Riviera, T4 in previous start in Arizona. Where's he finished this week?
Yeah, he's kind of been sneaky. At least he was out in the desert before that. So Bubba's an interesting one. Obviously, strength of his game is off the tee. And I think, as we talked about a little bit earlier, that's probably a little bit hindered here. So I think it's a pretty sharp call by Reed there. T25, maybe a T20. Which, again, talking about Bubba Watson, that could end up putting him in the top 15 or 10 of DraftKings points scored because of the way he plays. We know he plays aggressive. So definitely interesting. I think the higher he goes, obviously, the better he is going to be for DraftKings, obviously. But I think he ends up around T20 for the tournament.
Jeff, where do you have him? Reed and Jason kind of have him in the same neck of the woods.
I mean, predicting Bubba Watson is more difficult than predicting why your wife is giving you a dirty look, right? Like, it's... Bubba might actually like this course. I mean, T9 here last year, he led the field in strokes gained tee to green, or strokes gained off the tee here last year, and he's still driving it well. The thing that worries me about him is his putting right now. He's kind of switched strokes, and it looks a little uncomfortable, and these greens are fast. So I think the guys are actually pretty close. I'll just say T20 because, and I actually do think he's an interesting GPP pick for DraftKings. Jason mentioned he puts up the points pretty quickly. So I'll go T20.
Under a minute here, 45 seconds. Slate approved pick time. Reed.
Ooh, this one's. I'm gonna have to say Rory in this one. I really like where he's coming in right now.
Jeff.
Typical Reed goes with the chalk.
Yeah.
I'll say Mark Leash because that's who's gonna win.
Ooh.
Okay.
Jason. Slate approved pick.
Tiger Woods led the field in proximity last week. Let's go.
Tiger Woods.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
I love that pick. All right, guys. Thank you
Jason,
so
it was great
much.
having you part of the A+
Thanks,
team.
guys.
A+
Welcome.
team. Yeah, you'll be back for sure.
It was the plus and the A.
Yeah, of course. All right, guys. Thank you for your help. This is The Sweat. I'm Jessie. He's Emerson. The show is on at 6 p.m. every weeknight. Download the DK Live app, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We'll see you tomorrow at 6.